waves, cars setting off, and the grid for this race is partially reversed, and that was done on the drawing of a numbered ball after the second race, and the ball that came out of the bag was number 8, so the 8th placed finisher in race 2 starts on pole, and that's actually one of our clubman class cars, the leading clubman class car, that of Max Maserati. So the grid for you, pole position number 81, Maserati, alongside, or not alongside as I've explained before, but staggered behind, number 89, Jamie Sharp, 81 and 89. Second row, 122, Jonathan Brown, and 16, Michael McPherson. The third row, 77, James Clark, and 25, Neil McLennan. The fourth row, 11, Ross Martin, and 5, Spike Colbecker. And of course, 8th place on the grid, Spike Colbecker, the winner of the previous race. Then we move back to row 5. It's number 35, John Svensson, and 96, Pascal Monbaron. 35 and 96. Row 6 is 7, Adam Quatermain, and 3, Scott Huntley. Row 7 is 71, Samuel Street, and 47, Klaus-Dieter Heikel. Row 8 is 45, Rory Smith, one to watch there, and 88, Morgan Quinn. Row 9 is 64, Aaron Jeanson, and 72, Brendan Lee. And did you check?
I didn't see all of them. I saw Nicola Woods, she was there.
Okay.
And I saw, who was the other one? I'll get to that in a minute.
On the back row, we've got 46, Henry Chart, and 10, Nicole Woods. And we're going to check when they come. In fact, Alex has just arrived. She might be able to tell us whether Brendan Lee has made it back to the grid. All cars, fantastic.
Aaron Jansen as well?
Fantastic. So every car that you saw with wheels missing, suspension awry, being brought back on low loaders, they've all been repaired since the previous race, and they're all on the grid.
Alex is a bit tired because she's changed 6 wheels over the lunch break. She's changed them for licorice, all sorts, but you know, she's done her job. Your boss is out there doing something he shouldn't do. We won't talk about that. But anyway, lovely to see a full grid full of Formula 4s. I think perhaps I'd say it's always worth mentioning. It's just like the same reason we thank the marshals for rocking up and making sure that motorsport happens, because without them it surely wouldn't. But the teams down there, while everybody else may have been stuffing an ice cream or having a bag of chips or something at lunchtime, the teams down there have been working absolutely sideways since the first race, and there was an awful lot of work to do for some of those teams, and they all turn out on the grid, and I think 3 cheers for them. We wish them all the best of luck. Well, now, reverse grids are interesting because
yes.
I'm not going to say, because I don't know. I've never come across, I should say, before Max Maserati, and I'm trying desperately hard not to call him Maserati, but my guess is he's never been on pole in a race in his life.
I may not have been. That's right. Yes,
and that's a little bit scary with a full grid at Snet.
Yes. So the cars making their way round Coram and back towards the grid, and the race is 15 minutes long. Max Maserati starts on pole, one of our clubman class cars, and Jamie Sharp alongside, both in Van Diemen's. The cars behind, some of the other makes we've seen in Formula Ford over the years. We've got the Ray and the Spectrums, and further back on the grid, more Van Diemen's, and
two in the pit lane, 71 and 47 have come straight in.
71, Samuel Street. Oh dear, another problem for Samuel. He had an ignition failure yesterday, which took him out of qualifying. And the other car, 47, Klaus-Dieter Heikel.
Klaus is out of the car. Engine notes rise. 5-second board shown. And red lights are on. And out they go. And away from pole position goes young Max. And as though he's born to it. Really good start from pole. And takes his line into Riches for the first time of asking. Somebody else stuck on the grid though. there and finally getting hooked up on 72.
Motley again. Problems.
Oh. Somebody give him a PlayStation. That's really...
Meantime, the leaders are back round at Palmer for the first time and making their way along the short straight to Agostini. And it's the red, white and blue hidden by the barriers that looks like Max Maserati still has that lead but waiting out. The second place, one of our Scots drivers, either Michael McPherson or Neil McLennan. You put your money on perhaps McPherson because he was further up the grid into second place.
It's interesting, before we started I was going to say keep your eyes on McLennan generally for this race, because when you were talking to him downstairs he seemed like a sort of press on sort of chap, and one likely to be going forwards rather than backwards. But there, oh Brendan, that car really does not want to play and he's going slowly around Agostini's now. Shame for him. Well, baptism of fire for his first ever race weekend, but meanwhile the field through Brundle and Nelson, and it's Linus Stern, and somebody's gone off on the grass. They're going to come back on and recover. Yes, they are. Really well off the wheels on the grass, but a recovery there.
And that was a red car, so hope it wasn't Spike Colbecker, one of the red cars, or James Clark perhaps. But as they come back towards us to take the timing line for the first time, it's 25 Neil McLennan that leads. So the blue and white car I saw in second place was Neil McLennan, as you thought.
And both Colbecker and his teammate were there. I think fourth and fifth were there. As they come down from Wilson into Palmer, very low down, and as we mentioned before, the necessary very high Armco that protects the drivers on the new infield circuit here at Snet. Still with a stiff breeze mainly from the east, and some of the drivers are talking. I think one of them mentioned to you on the podium yesterday, Alistair mentioned that they were really suffering, and they will do with this wind direction. Going down Bentley Straight, they were felt sort of caught the braces or being shoved about by the wind. That's where they are now, just coming through Williams and onto Bentley.
And another car slow through Hamilton, but got back going again, so maybe a half spin for that car towards the back of the field. But the leaders are making their way down to Brundle and Nelson. McLennan opening out a little bit of a lead. Is it still Max Maserati in second place? Difficult to tell. Our screen isn't really large enough to pick out the slight difference in colours between the cars, so we'll wait till we see them over the distance. And certainly it looks as though it's still McLennan leading in the distinctive white with the blue at the base of the car. Then in second place, it looks like it's changed, because I think that is Ross Martin in second place, and Max Maserati has dropped to third as they come out onto the centre straight once again to cross the stripe. And it is Maserati in third, but a great battle for fourth place between Sharp and Colbecker went to the outside for Riches. Don't think that will have worked. I don't think there's enough room to go around the outside there.
Rory Smith apparently up into 8th place. He started on the inside of the 8th row of the grid, so he's making good progress. But then he's had work to do, hasn't he, in almost all of the races this weekend. But he's done a decent finish out of this one.
And Max Maserati coming under pressure now from the 89 car of Jamie Sharp. In fact, Jamie Sharp runs wide, so So Max Maserati is now coming under pressure from probably, is it Clark or Kolbecker, as they come up to the right-hander at Oggies. And as you'd expect, he's not quite as quick as these top drivers, so there's a little bit of a queue behind him. He's in the clubman class, of course, so going very well indeed onto the Bentley straight, but the leader is still McLennan. But will Ross Martin be able to catch him?
Well, down they come to the end of the Bentley straight, be into the braking area, and this part, I would suggest, under braking after such a long straight, is where the difference might show between those with more experience and some of them with less. The two leaders away, and then the train. Everyone safely through there as they come out on a quorum, and our two leaders settled at the moment, not under any kind of pressure. The pressure is all about what's going on behind, and I should imagine a little bit of frustration there for some of the drivers who consider themselves a little bit quicker, and they're all fanning out, and it's two abreast and two abreast as they come to the line. And the Kolbecker and his teammate side by side there. This is where the team owners are wincing a little down in the pits. The Cliff Dempsey racing team will be bouncing up and down, hoping the guys sort themselves out.
And they're coming back down towards Palmer now, to the back of the paddock. But the leaders are out of Palmer and going towards Agostini, and it's still McLennan from Martin. And coming down now into Agostini, this wonderful battle for third place, and they turn through the left-hander, the two very similarly coloured teammate cars, and it looks like two numbers at the front and a single number at the back, so that would put Clark 77 ahead of Kolbecker 5 in those two red and white cars, and the third member of that team is right behind them. So it's a great battle between those teammates. As you say, the team manager probably in the pits with his hands over his eyes as they make their way down the Bentley straight once again. And the gap between the leaders, let's make a note of this, 1 second between McLennan and Martin last time over the timing line.
And Clark with the fastest lap of the race so far, 2:03. Yeah, 2:03.5. And very tidy stuff indeed from him as they come down once again through the complex and out onto Coram. And the two out the front, well, not only are they untroubled, although I do think the gap has closed down slightly between them actually, Alistair, but they are maintaining their advantage over the rest at the moment. They come up to complete the lap. Now slightly calmer behind, 77 plays 5, so Clark and Kolbecker, that was the order as you saw it disappearing through Oggies last time I was there.
And it's the Cliff Dempsey triplets coming through towards Wilson, and Clark, Kolbecker and Brown. McLennan and Martin over the line. The fastest lap goes to Ross Martin on that last tour, 2:02.697, and clearly that's closed up the gap to the leader, Neil McLennan. The gap is now 0.7, and it was 1 second last time around, so the leading two are closing up.
We apparently lost the other American driver, Jameson, that time around, but I must say, looking around the screens, I can't see any yellow flags, can't see any parked up. Oh, he did one lap and then pulled in. Oh, he did start right dead last on the grid, so obviously the car not working as he would wish. But he didn't make the trip on the earlier race either, did he? Yep, Henry Chart, again, his car obviously not working as well as he'd have liked after his off earlier on. Nicole Woods, is she still circulating? Yes, she is. She's in 14th place. I'm just looking for those that did have to have a massive rebuild between the two races.
Leaders coming through Coram. They're coming round to complete their 5th lap, and at the line last time it was 0.7. I'd say visually it's a little bit closer this time. And the Cliff Dempsey duo now, the triplets have slightly split up. They're still 3rd, 4th and 5th. Across the line they come, and it's still McLennan leading from Martin, and it was a little bit closer, 0.6 that time. And up to Riches they go, and through on the inside.
That's Clark back up to 3rd, yeah.
Yep, Clark up to 3rd, past Colbecker on the inside of Riches.
Yeah, Colbecker nicked back past him half a lap ago. I think they're going to be glued to each other for the rest of this. Yes, I think, just been looking down the list and trying to remember the entire bunch who had rebuilds, and I think Nicole Woods at the moment is the highest placed of all those who had massive work to do. There she goes across the line now in 14th place still. So she will be rewarding her team for all the work they put in. And leaders down into Oldies. Now look at that, Alistair. That gap has gone down completely between 1st and 2nd. I'd say that's nearly halved from a couple of laps ago. They're out on a Bentley straight now, and suddenly I don't know whether McLennan has any sort of a problem, or whether it's simply Ross Martin. Let's face it, Ross, he was on pole originally for their first race, and he's had a bit of an up and down weekend, but we know he's got the speed. So it could just be, look, as they go through Nelson and the bomb hole very much closer together. So maybe this is the charge by Ross Martin.
Yes, into Coram once again, the long right-hander that leads into the hard braking for the left-hander at Murray's, and they're very close indeed as they come down to the left-hander. Neither of them runs wide, so it's McLennan leading Martin as they come out onto the centre straight. Meantime, the battle for 3rd place continues between the Cliff Dempsey Racing duo, and this time over the line it's Colbecker that leads, but Clark once again trying for that move, but doesn't work this time. There's no room, so Colbecker holds on to 3rd place through Riches. Clark behind him, then it's Brown in the 3rd Cliff Dempsey car, the 1-2-2, and completing the top 6 after coming through from 15th on the grid, Rory Smith. So Rory Smith running 2:03.6 that last time around, so slightly slower than the 5 cars ahead of him.
Leaders along behind the Med Centre and Tyrrell's, and it's closer again. Martin just shaping up to have a little look somewhere. He's eyeing McLennan, seeing where maybe there's a little bit of a weakness, but you'd have to say it does look at the moment as though Martin's car is slightly quicker, so it's almost a question of when rather than if. But he's pushing on. How many minutes have we got? It's 1.5 minutes left to run in this Avon Formula Ford 1600 National Championship race, and that should get them round to start another lap. About 2/3 of a lap left to go when I spotted them going down there, so they should get around to start another. We hope so, because this is here they come over the bridge, the leaders.
There's just about a minute on the clock now, so they should just about make it back. And leaders coming through by the bomb hole, and they are much closer now, aren't they? And the battle for 3rd is really still joined as well between Colbecker and Clark. Leaders through Coram, and we can see by sight now that gap has closed down a little bit as they turn into the left-hander at Murray's, and then we've got the Colbecker and Clark battle behind them, and the car in 5th place a little bit further behind, but the leaders go over the line. We've got 27 seconds on the clock, so on to the last lap for all these cars, and guess what? Clark's ahead of Colbecker this time. Ooh. And Spike looks for the inside at Riches, tries to do what Clark did to him a couple of laps ago, but that doesn't work, so they stay in the same order as they go up to Wilson. Meantime, the leaders should be coming down towards Palmer, and into the left-hander they go, and the pressure starting to build now on Neil McLennan. as he comes out of Palmer and up towards Agostini. Ross Martin right behind him.
Yes, it's their problem, isn't it? Everybody wants to win every race, but those that are going to end up in the top half dozen places in the championship at the end of the year are going to be those that maybe think, hey, I'd rather score a whole heap full of points right now than bend the car and chuck it up the road. So they've got to keep it sane and sensible, and the leaders making their way out for their last time onto the Bentley Straight on this Snetterton weekend. Still that fantastic battle behind him with the battle of the teammates, and it's always been axiomatic in racing that if there's one person out there you want to beat, it's the guy in your team. As a car off at the exit of Agostini's, he's well off on the grass, so it's not going to worry anybody, but the yellow flags are out. Number 18, is that? It's just folded round 60.
That'll be Michael McPherson.
Yep, he has the forlorn look of one whose toy has given up all hope. Leaders are already through and down into Murray's. Is it going to be a dash to the flag, or is it simply going to be McLennan holding off? Miller, oh, it's awfully close this time as they come to that checkered flag, and there's no room through, surely. Oh, yes. Well, Martin was diving left and right, but in the end, no room at the inn. Good try by Clark. So the win going to what I absolutely certain is going to be a very happy Neil McLennan at the end of that one. And he was being savaged by Ross Martin for really certainly the last third of that race, and he really had to work hard to keep him behind. It was just 0.1 of a second as they crossed the line, and an excellent third place. And his best result of the weekend for number 77, James Clark. And the fastest lap of the race, that 2:02.02, right at the end there to Ross Martin, doing absolutely everything save sawing the gearbox in half of the car ahead of him. Just couldn't do enough, but he got the fastest lap of the race in the end. Oh, I know what I was going to ask you, didn't ask you yesterday. Is this the first time the championship in this guise has visited Snet 300?
Yes.
No, that's a new lap record. Fairly certain that's the fastest lap we've had the weekend, 2:02.
Yeah.
Okay, be good to know.
Yeah.
Could you thank the marshals on our behalf, please?
Of course we can. It's not as if they haven't done much to do, but
I apologise for all the extra we gave them.
no worries. And
Because you normally say they stand out in the cold all day.
yeah. Well, thanks to Ian and Alex from the National Ford 1600 Championship. And basically what Ian was saying right at the end there was from everyone involved in the Formula Ford Championship, an extra big thank you to all the marshals, the recovery crews, and everyone else involved in their earlier race today, when they do realise that their young charges put an awful lot of marshals to work in the early morning sunshine. And they said, as usual, marshals always do all the hard stuff, but that was really asking a lot, dealing with those 6 cars in the space, I think, combined of under 2 racing laps. So a big Formula Ford thank you to the guys and girls in orange. Nothing in racing would ever happen without the marshals. There simply wouldn't be racing at any level in this country. So well done to them. And well done to our 1, 2, 3 down there. And Neil McLennan, the winner from Ross Martin. They're already out of the cars and having a good old chat and discussion. And Jamie Clark, now they won't necessarily have realised because they were concentrating on each other so much, but what a third place from Jamie Clark after an excellent race-long battle with his teammate and our earlier race winner, Spike Kerbecker. And it's There's a happy McLennan type person. It's all helmets off, balaclavas off, again the hands devices off, and making their way towards the microphone of Alistair down there. And Alistair, he can see his customers, but they're still having their post-mortem of the action. Lots of head shaking. Don't know how I did that, Gov, but I did. Well done, sir. That's a fairly... I think perhaps Jamie Clark was the most exhausted of those three. Alistair.
Yes, we're getting our three drivers through. They're all so happy and shaking hands with team members and friends and family. But we'll get them through towards the podium. Here they come. A couple of stragglers, come on guys. So we've got our three drivers down here. Let's call them up onto the podium in reverse order. And first time on the podium this weekend, after some good races, but first time up for the Cliff Dempsey racing driver, James Clark. James Clark up onto the podium, first time this weekend. Well done, James. Third place. Gets his cup and bottle of water. But our second podium stander is his three podiums he's had today. So well done to our man from Glasgow, racing with Team Dillon and Allied Vehicles. It's Ross Martin. Had a third, and a second, and now another second. But our winner, after a great race, he was being caught at the end, but he kept him back. It's Neil McLennan. Neil, all the way down from Inverness, races with Kevin Mills Racing. And well done to Neil. He had a third in the second race, that earlier race today. And he gets his... we finally got a melted chocolate egg after struggling to keep them reasonably in shape. We've got a hole in this one. So, Neil, that needs eating. So we've got some photographs being taken by the assembled masses, so we'll let them get on with that, and then we'll have a chat with our three drivers. It's sunny in Snetterton, it's Easter weekend, and everybody's smiling, so that's great. Right, let's go and have a chat first of all with James Clark. James, you haven't been up on the podium before, but here you are.
Yeah, it's good to finally repay everyone at Cliff Dempsey Racing. We've had a many power weekend. We're about like 21 and that sort of sets the match, but it all got a bit frantic on the start in that one. So I went back to about 8 or something, and then by the time I got beat in the front of that pack, just sort of cleared off, so it was then a case of fighting with Spiky, so yeah, just happy, it's good to get some good points.
Do you think the team back in the pits was covering their eyes when the three of you were battling together?
Yeah, I think especially when me and Spike went, I think it was Max, we got a toe on him going down the back straight. Spike went to the outside and I went to the inside. We were sort of three wide all the way through. So I think if any of them were stood on the bank, I just wondering about the repair.
Thanks very much, James. That's James Clark in third place, and James, actually, you're the only Englishman on the podium. We've got two Scotsmen coming up now. Ross Martin from Glasgow. We've seen you up here every time.
Yeah, good weekend. I think I know right, good score points. Championship, I mean, points to big prizes, but I think we're looking at against the boys that we've got to take away from it, but chasing all three races, like you said, we're going in, but big hats off to the team and they've got a great job. I'm more than happy in this car, and they've really set up the team as well. So I think it's been an overall excellent weekend. Not came away from it, but fighting for it. So it all well done to Neil as well, because I was pushing every lap there, and he didn't make a mistake. We were close in the last lap, I just ran out of laps to be honest with you, but yeah.
Team Dillon and all the racing champions on there, and I think they're running, is it 5 cars today?
Yeah, we've got a busy weekend, so they've done a great job running all the cars, hats off to the guys, so thank you very much.
Well done to Team Dolan. And our winner, Neil McLennan, all the way down from Inverness. That's a very long way, but it's worth it.
Yeah, definitely worth it. Thank you very much. No, I think that would be a great weekend. These 2 races today, so it's going to go any better. How fun Kevin knows racing, and that's all the great hard work we've done, and the rest of the team. It's just, yeah.
You had this back in your mirrors all the way, really, as soon as he broke away from the pack. And he was close and close and close. Were you actually in control? Were you letting him step out a little closer?
No, I was kept behind the corners when I kept it on Kevin. Yeah, sorry.
Thank you very much, Alistair down there. Well done to all the guys. The competitors for the BRSCC Mazda MX-5 Super Cup are lining up down below us, and they've had their little their draw, their grid reverse, and it gives us a very interesting, a very new front row. 16 on pole position is Simon Baldwin, who earlier on was starting at the back of the grid. Alongside Simon will be 223 Gary Townsend. On the second row, 48 Will Stacey and 29 Pat Fletcher. On the third row, 56 Steve Roberts and 43 Jack Harding. And on the fourth row, and you'd have to say a pretty tasty prospect considering what we've seen of the Mazdas thus far this weekend. Number 1 on the fourth row is Luke Herbert, and number 8 is Aidan Hills. On the fifth row, 36 is David Henderson, 44 Bradley Kent. The sixth row, 99 is Nick Rutter and 69 George Grant. The seventh row, 96 Chris Richardson and 91 Jack Sycamore. And on the eighth row, 9 James Blake Baldwin. As long as that car is there, I think there might be a gap. Sadly, I think that car may not be coming out. And 62, Will Stevenson. And just watching them past, yeah, no number 9. So James Blake Baldwin has not made it to this grid. He had problems early on. But, well, they do this little bit of a reverse of the grid up to 8th position. So those that were first ain't first anymore. They've got a lot more work to do. And I'm thinking, I don't know whether Alistair agrees with me, but I'm thinking that the way it's worked out, Will Stacey and Pat Fletcher are row 2. And frankly, it wouldn't surprise me if the winner came from that second row. They had a wonderful battle between them in the earlier race. Their times were not too shy of the leading bunch. And if they can get away, get past the front row starters of Simon Baldwin and Gary Townsend, who knows? That's a couple of the Masters runners, the over 45s, comprise that front row. So we shall see. Will Stacey and Pat Fletcher be able to take advantage of this reversal of the front 4 rows of the grid? Back from scrutineering come the Cliff Dempsey cars, and they're even going back through the paddock in team order. So very splendid. They look as the Mazdas work their way out through Oggies. A 20-minute race this for the MX-5 Super Cup. And strong point scoring finishes really, particularly for last year's champion, I beg his pardon, twice champion, I think, Luke Herbert, you were saying earlier. Yeah, so good points for him. Good also for Aidan Hills this weekend. But well, as we say, not quite all bets off, but certainly a change in the volume of work, let's put it like that, when the guys who finished 7th and 8th in that earlier race are now the front row of the grid. So we will see what transpires. The leading cars under the bridge and down through the bomb hole now, as the Fordies are being shoved back from scrutineering back to their pit garages and team trucks. And there'll be scattering too. The four winds, I'm guessing that certainly all the drivers from abroad, that many of them will obviously be there being run by teams, and the cars and equipment and everything else will stay in this country and be toted round to the various circuits by the teams, and the driver shows up and drives the car. But I don't think that's necessarily the case with all of them. It may well be that the likes of John Svensson is his own entrance, certainly Thomas Crancourt from France, and also Pascal Monbaron from Switzerland, who drive M18 cars. And it could well be that they will be transporting their Fordies back to Europe in between every race. But Mazda's ahoy, that familiar, not quite, it's too dark to be Gulf oils, but it is still reminiscent of the design at any rate. The familiar blue and orange stripes of number 16 Simon Baldwin, who sat on pole position. 223 alongside him, Gary Townsend. Sort of yellow, purple and black design on the diagonal. And on row 2, the far more metallic blue on row 2 of Will Stacey. Red lights on, red lights out, way to go. And was trying to get up the inside of the pit wall there. Was 56 Steve Robertson. I think he may even have rubbed the wall. He got himself a little jammed up, and it's very tight in the bunch there, and they appear to have just about made it round in one piece. But there was a big charge by Luke Herbert from row 4, carrying the number 1 and looking as though he wanted to do it all in the first couple of corners. Well, we'll see.
Slight contact between Gary Townsend and Simon Baldwin going into Riches, totally unintended. They just rubbed doors, but I see Gary Townsend has dropped back to 3rd as they come through Palmer. So let's see who's got that lead. Well, it's Simon Baldwin from pole position, one of our masters, who leads as they go down into Agostini and into 2nd place. It looks like it might be either Patrick Fletcher or Jack Harding. Can't quite see the colours. It's actually
That's Harding,
isn't it? Yeah, Jack Harding's made his way all the way through to 2nd place already from a 6th place on the grid. So a great start for him. Then it's the Gary Townsend car in 3rd place, and 4th looks like Will Stacey, the all-blue car, similar in colour to the number 1, but I think he is a couple of places further back. So reigning champion Luke Herbert in 6th place.
I think it's Tim Fletcher too, just behind Will Stacey, so they're sort of in position to continue their race-long battle from earlier on. And they run down straight under the bridge. And can Simon Baldwin hold on to this for a little? Under braking, heavy braking for Brundle, and Baldwin does lose out there. Just he's dropped down into 2nd.
And that looks like a spin for the white car, which is Patrick Fletcher, isn't it?
No, he's black.
Is he black?
Black car.
Right. Black and red stripes, yes.
That
so
one is,
that's Steve Roberts, my apologies.
Now, he looks as though he's been nerfed in the rear of the car, and he's driving off into, I think, a place of retirement. So.
Yeah, and it is Steve Roberts, the all-white car. My apologies for misidentifying him, who had a moment at Brundle. But the leaders are back with us, and it's Jack Harding who leads number 43 from 16 Simon Baldwin, absolutely side by side across the line for Townsend and Fletcher. The timekeepers tell us Townsend was ahead by 17 thousandths of a second for 3rd place. That's number 223. And Fletcher, number 29, was in 4th place. Then it's Luke Herbert, so he's up another 1. And right behind Luke Herbert, guess who? Aidan Hills, one of our winners from a previous race.
Well, down they come into Palmer's, and this is the time, and he'll know this better than anyone, that Harding really needs to get scudding away and leave the rest, because he knows that the other quick guys are going to be making their way through the pack.
And Herbert's up into third already.
Okay, he's on the march, so Jake Harding really needs to push as hard as he can right now and make something out of the little advantage that he has.
Leaders into Oggies. Jack Harding leads. Second place Simon Baldwin. Third place Luke Herbert, number 1. Then it's Gary Townsend in 4th place, and in 5th place is Patrick Fletcher as they turn through Williams. Aidan Hills hasn't made as much progress as Luke Herbert has on that short section through the infield, and he's still stuck back in about 6th place.
You'd have to say Simon Baldwin in these early stages driving out of his skin to hang on to that position. He was gifted the draw of pole position, but he's not giving it up lightly, that position, and through and down to the bomb hole he runs, keeping the double champion behind him. Coram.
Simon Baldwin now coming under intense pressure from Luke Herbert as they come through Coram. Will he go for the inside? Murray's on the brakes. I don't know whether there's going to be room there. Jack Harding that leads from Simon Baldwin, from Luke Herbert, trying to get that second place away. Then it's 2-2-3, Gary Townsend and Fletcher, Hills and Kent immediately behind, and Aidan Hills still stuck back there. He hasn't made that jump ahead of that group.
And just like Simon Baldwin, you've got to say whoopee for Gary as well. Started on that front row, Gary Townsend, they're both masters drivers, so the over 45s, but they're still making good. They're making the best of their elevated grid starting positions and fighting for every square inch of this one. Leader along behind the med centre, Tyrrells, and there, well, just that change as Luke Herbert moves up into second.
So now we need to keep an eye on the gap between Jack Harding and Luke Herbert, see if Luke can close the gap down. If you take the gap between first and third last time around, it was 2.5 seconds. So now that Luke Herbert has passed Simon Baldwin, we'll see if we can close that 2.5 second gap to the leader.
Well, lovely stuff as they run down and under the bridge. I have to say, I don't think I've ever seen a reverse grid or a reversal of part of the grid work quite so well. The guys who were elevated are still in there having a genuine fight. Simon Baldwin would love to get a bit of a draft on Luke Herbert and surprise him, but you fancy it's not going to happen. But the fighting behind is just as considerable as it was in the earlier race. We're back towards us again. So we've got our eyes on the gaps.
The gap first to second slightly opened out to 2.7 seconds, but during that lap Luke Herbert had to get past Simon Baldwin, so we'll give him the benefit of the doubt and see how he can do in the next lap. We've still got 12 3/4 minutes to go. Somebody runs wide at Riches, big cloud of dust but no yellow flag, so just a wheel off the edge of the curbing, kicking up that dust in this very dry weather. I've noticed that Aidan Hills had started to move up. He's up to 5th place now, so he's got past Will Stacey.
Yes, Stacey dropping back slightly after that happened, but he's still got Aidan Hills has still got Fletcher to deal with, and Fletcher doesn't really look in the mood to give anything to anybody. He's in a good 4th place at the moment, and he'll be eyeing up perhaps 3rd, because Simon Baldwin, I guess, is going to be slipping away from the leading 2. That'll give great encouragement to Fletcher. Go on the Bentley Straight once again. This is Patrick Fletcher. That's one down. Retardation into things, and that's still a good little lead there. For Harding from Herbert. A couple of seconds between the last time round. And through the long holiday run. And here they are, coming down towards Murray. Simon Baldwin gradually slipping away from those 2 in the lead. Fletcher, goodness me, just hanging on at that point. Ahead of Aidan Hills, he comes down into Murray's. And that looks like Aidan Hills is an hungry man, and he's going to give it some steam as they come up centre straight. Tucked in right underneath Pat Fletcher, pulls out nice and early. Hasn't quite got the speed to go round the outside of Riches though, so Fletcher hangs on there in 4th place for the moment.
Another battle going on just behind them, which is for 7th and 8th places. Gary Townsend slipping back a little bit now from his elevated starting position in 7th, but alongside going into Riches, almost carbon copy of the battle you were describing further forward between Fletcher and Hills, was Bradley Kent, number 44, who's trying to get through into 7th place.
Well, still Aidan Hills is being frustrated by Pat Fletcher. They run into Agos, and then there's this little 4.5 car battle. It is a bit of a gap at the back, but good little battle running into the same part of the circuit, and the leaders already making their way out towards Bentley Straight, and Pat Fletcher, and they touch. What a great shame. Fletcher and Aidan Hills touch going through Oggies, and Fletcher is put sideways, but it's Aidan Hills that suffers the most. He's off towards the tyre wall, manages to get it hooked up before he does any substantial damage, and he rejoins half a dozen places down the order. Well, that was a shame. At this distance, I wouldn't like to say whether he should have tried the manoeuvre or not, but there's never that much room at Oggies, so it was all a bit speculative, I would have said. But they both suffered from it, but Aidan Hills suffered more.
And it looks like Patrick Fletcher's in trouble though, because he's travelling down the Bentley Straight quite slowly, and it looks like it's got front left damage, so that would be as a result of that contact you saw.
And he's pulled off onto the safety runoff area at the complex. What a shame. It was a superb battle while it ran. And there goes, still we've got Simon Baldwin in 3rd, and now Will Stacey is elevated to 4th, substantially on his own, because as a result of that incident, everyone else just eased off a little, and they've all dropped back. And Hills went through in 9th place, so he's able to continue, but lost a whole heap of places and time. Talking of time, where are we? 7 minutes odd to run.
And last time around, Luke Herbert set the fastest lap of the race at 2:16.023, and didn't make a substantial difference because the leader did a 2:16.355, so only 3/10 in it. But it did close the gap down between Harding and Herbert to 2.5 seconds. So he's got it back to where it was when he was trying to get past Simon Baldwin as Herbert, and then they're running up towards Williams onto the Bentley Straight once again. Leader is still Jack Harding from Luke Herbert from Simon Baldwin, who's leading the Masters, of course, from that pole position start. And then it's Will Stacey, number 48, in 4th, Gary Townsend in 5th, and Bradley Kent in 6th place, number 44. And we've got just under 7 minutes left on the clock.
Well, he was once again under that bridge, and to the eye, it's visibly closer. So Herbert doing the business at the moment. He's taking time out of Harding in the lead. Will Stacey goes through in a clear 4th, and then behind him a 5-way battle for what effectively is just 5th place, but it's that's not going to stop them. They come out onto Coram as the leaders already down into Murray's. Up to the line. What was it last time?
It was 2.5 seconds, and it's now 1.8.
Right.
So it looks closer comment. You're absolutely spot on. By 1.8 seconds.
Stacey is going to have his thoughts on 3rd place if he can, and then this lovely battle. It is effectively for 5th place, but they don't care. They're having a race, and they're thoroughly enjoying it.
And it's still Bradley Kent and Gary Townsend, which I was talking about 2 laps ago, and they're still virtually side by side all the way around the track. So they're having a cracking afternoon of racing. And the leaders, meantime, are making their way down towards Agostini, and the long left-hander is currently Jack Harding going through it. There goes Luke Herbert. That does look a bit closer, doesn't it? Luke Herbert's really got his head down now. I think he might have found 5th gear.
There's the 5-way battle for 5th. In some respects, I'm surprised that Will Stacey cannot seem to close substantially on Simon Baldwin. Okay, Simon started on pole, but we know why, and he started at the back of the grid earlier. But Stacey's been there or thereabouts in each of the races so far, but at the moment, Baldwin could just be trading pole for a podium finish.
A very sideways moment there in Oggies for Bradley Kent, I think it was, and he was passed on the exit of the corner by Aidan Hills. After that, very, very sideways, collected it all up but lost momentum. So Aidan Hills has made his way back up again, and we'll see when they come round to the timing line what position that is. But Aidan Hills after that.
Oh, and round, sorry, that's a big bump. But round, just on the crack between 2 screens, one of that group of 5 just spins. Can't really see the colour scheme. Is it dark or is it light? That was from the group of 5. Leaders cross.
It was Bradley Kent again, number 44. So he's had a half spin and a full spin on 1 lap.
0.6 of a second the gap between the 2 leaders, so squeaky by the end. There goes Simon Baldwin, and this time now Baldwin must have had a mare of a lap. That rather took me back. Stacey, who was really a reasonable, well, half a country mile behind at any rate, has now got up and passed Baldwin. And Stacey did a 2:18 and Baldwin a 2:26. So 8 seconds of disaster somewhere around that lap happened to Boris Simon Baldwin, and rather than going for a podium, he's now in 4th place.
Well, I'll blame you, because you were talking all about Simon Baldwin not being caught by Will Stacey. Commentators curse, I'm afraid.
Well, we like stirring it up a bit. I don't mind.
But Aidan Hills has made his way up into 5th place. After that moment earlier on, a little bit of contact, we think, with Patrick Fletcher at Oggies. And last time around, Luke Herbert, number 1, did another fastest lap of the race, a 2:15.944, first driver into the 15s in this race, and he shaved another 0.2 off the lead to Jack Harding. So the lead last time across the line, 1.6 seconds. Lead leaders are down at the bomb hole, just turning into the right-hander now. There goes Jack Harding, there goes Luke Herbert into the right-hander. So they'll shortly come into our view at Coram.
0.6 in a second across the line. It's will be 0.6 now. It's closer than it was a few laps ago, but you can't really say necessarily the position's going to change by the end. Here they come up the centre straight, and then it is Stacey followed by Baldwin as the leaders cross.
Onto their last lap now. Last lap for the Mazdas.
What's our 0.6 doing? Ooh, no.
1.3 now, so another 0.3 shaved off. But not a fastest lap that time for Luke Herbert, but still 0.3 quicker than Jack Harding. And Will Stacey goes across in third place, Simon Baldwin in fourth, Aidan Hills in fifth, and in sixth place is number 62.
Will Stevenson.
Will Stevenson from the back of the grid.
Good effort. Good efforts all round, but we're on the last lap of the BRSCC Mazda MX-5 Super Cup race. 3 excellent races from them this weekend, and look at that, right down the field they're still having side-by-side action there. Kent and Richardson, that is, going... Richardson just squeezes up the inside and nips past. Lovely stuff. They will be battling till probably just after the flag.
And the leader drops a wheel into the dust there on the exit of Oggies, so he's really trying his Jack Harding. Just kicks up a little puff of dust as he goes on the exit towards Williams, and another puff of dust behind that, but I think that's coming from Wilson rather than the Oggies and Williams side of the track. But they're now making their way down to Brundle and Nelson. Into Brundle, left-hander turns the leader, Jack Harding. That isn't 1.3 seconds between them, is it? No. As they come out of Nelson up towards the bomb hole. It's a lot for Luke Herbert to do, but he'll try every inch of the way, or perhaps I should say centimetre of the way in these metric days.
Aidan Hills has just nipped past Simon Baldwin, so Hills up into fourth.
And the leaders up to Murray's for the last time. Turn in, Jack Harding makes a clean turn into the left-hander, makes no mistake whatsoever, making sure that he keeps ahead of Luke Herbert as they come up to the line to take the flag. And it's a win for Jack Harding. Luke Herbert in second place, and third place some way behind after all those moments midfield.
Yep, will be, or should be, Will Stacey if he comes out of Murray's. There he is. And as we said, that change for fourth. There goes Will Stacey picking up third, and Aidan Hills brings it home in fourth place. Simon Baldwin finishes fifth, and I don't think he'll be too displeased with that. 62. Will Stevenson finishes in sixth place. Townsend is seventh. David Henderson is eighth. Then that great little battle going the way of Rutto finishes ninth. Grant finishes 10th. There really have been excellent little battles all the way down this field. And here's another of them between Kent and Richardson. And it's going to go the way of Kent. He finishes in 11th place. Richardson is 12th. And I think those are our last running Mazdas. So lovely stuff from them. The win then going to Jake Harding. The fastest lap of the race, 2:15.944, goes to Luke Herbert, who finished second. It's not quite as quick as the fastest lap earlier in the day, but I think by this time of the day, cars, drivers and everything else are a bit, just the edge is gone. And also, we've seen quite a lot of these clouds of dust put up, and that tends to settle on the track surface. It does become a little bit more slippery for each subsequent race. But that is it for the Mazdas. Excellent stuff. Really enjoyed watching them this weekend, and plenty of interesting action in prospect for the rest of the season. You'd have to say at the moment nobody is looking like an outright winner of the championship or a runaway winner. And just over the 3 races we've seen this weekend, been an awful lot of variety and an awful lot of changes in luck one way or another. So back towards us the leaders come. Looked at. Platform actually, where it says Clapham North, and I've been wondering all day about what on earth is Clapham North tube station got to do with racing, but it is actually a tyre company. All right, good. So they line up down below us. The leading Porsches, 1, 2 and 3. And Yorkshire Trade Windows is the headline sponsor as far as Jake Harding is concerned. Jack Harding, I think I called him Jake twice, but Jack Harding it is that won the race, and once again drives out of the cars, bottles of water flying around everywhere. Always interesting when you see the drivers get out of the car, and some of them fairly new to some of these series, and some of them get out of the cars and are of a surprising vintage. They are not necessarily in their first, second or third flushes of youth. Others of them look as though they've just run away from primary school for a day. So huge mixture. And the entry for these Mazdas, no exception. And the drivers are hiding in the shade by Garage 1 rather than coming down and having a chat. Come on, be brave. Alistair won't bite. He's there for him.
Right down here at Podium, we have Fabio, who's the coordinator, partially the driver's position. So we've got our top 3 start off the podium in the lovely afternoon sunshine. First up onto the podium in 3rd place. First time we've seen this weekend on the podium, William Stacey. William, up onto that number 3 step there. Oh, he's got lots of support. Well done, William. First time on the podium this afternoon. But the other 2 we've seen a few times. We've had a win and a 2nd place for our reigning champion, but again, 2nd this time, Kevin. He did get the fastest lap of the race. And our winner, he's had a 2nd and a 3rd. He's moved all the way up to the top now, and it's of course Jack Harding.
So the grid debouches its Porsche contents up the road for the green flag lap, and it is the Toyo Tyres BRSCC Porsche Championship. Essentially everything falling into two classes, the Boxsters and the 924s. The 924s are more venerable machinery, so their race will be towards the back of the grid, but the Boxsters have the youth and indeed a little more power, and they will be up the front, and they should line up thus: 80, Tony Hutchins on pole position, alongside him 44 Nick Hull. The second row, 33, is Andy Porter, and 99 is Gary Lawrence. Oh yes, those who assume that black car would have someone else in, and that Gary would be out in the green monster. Nope, not happening. Gary has got his own car back. Rick has relinquished it, and so Gary, after a couple of unfortunate problems with his own car that he selected to drive this weekend, has got his other car back, which he lent to Rick, and he's going to go out for his race win. On the 924 grid, 88 Chris Valentine is on the pole from 11 Andy Pritchard, and 639 John Jones sits alongside 36 Hugh Peart. Hugh, who's won everything really as far as the 924s are concerned so far this weekend, but now starts right at the back. Dead last for him. Once again through the complex and back out to Coram. And this will be a 20-minute race for the Porsches. Earlier today from Andy Porter and Nick Hull, and Hugh Peart taking the 924 win from John Jones and Andy Pritchard. Yesterday afternoon it was again Richard Styron who took the win from Gary Lawrence and Nick Hull, and Hugh Peart once again taking the 924 win from John Jones and Andy Pritchard. So if they're going to change things, now is the hour. They've got their little grids reversed. Rick Styron not taking part in this race. He has been driving the car owned by Gary Lawrence. Gary's now back in the car, fourth on the grid. The red lights are on, out they go, and away they go. Good start from pole position by Tony Hutchins, but a really good start also from the second row of the grid from Gary Lawrence, who runs right round the outside of Rich's and takes the lead for the first time last year. Behind him, Hugh Peart moves up just one place from last on the grid. He just nips past. He is third of the 924s as they run up towards Wilson for the first time.
A stunning start from Gary Lawrence there in the 99 car that he owns.
He knew what he wanted.
Yeah, I expect he's quite happy to have a clutch again, because he was having trouble all weekend with the clutch in his other car. So he leads down into the left-hander at Agostini. Into the left they go. In second place, it looks like it's Anthony Hutchins who took pole position for this race with the switched around grid. Then it's Nick Hull in third place, and then Andrew Porter back of the Boxsters, and then the 924s come through Hamilton, and it's the white car leading in the 924s. That's Andy Pritchard from second place, the multicoloured. It's actually a lot of photographs wrapped onto the car, which is Chris Valentine. Looks like Hugh Peart in third place, and John Jones.
Have you seen that car close up? What are those photographs of?
Well, it used to actually be owned by Philip Waters, another driver, and it's friends and family of Philip, which he had made into a wrap for the car. So actually, although Chris Valentine knows some of the people in the photographs, they're not actually his friends and family. And he's actually preparing a wrap to go on that car, which is his friends and family.
God, you'd be a bit worried if you got wiped off the car, wouldn't you? Doesn't like me much.
Yeah.
It reminds me, many years ago, we had one of our racing instructors, Brian, who wanted to do sports car racing, had absolutely no money. And I had a bit of a wheeze, because I realised it was Mother's Day on the Sunday he'd be racing, and we got the car sprayed white, and then for £5 each, you could write a message on it in indelible ink to your mother. And the thing was absolutely covered. He made I think he ran 3 races using the money from just the one wheeze, so can work.
Nick Hull takes the lead going into Riches from Gary Lawrence on that lap. The Boxsters all running very close together, as are the 924s. As they turn into Riches, it's the Chris Valentine car that leads, number 88, the 924s, then Pritchard, then Peart and Jones. Meantime, the Boxsters making their way through Palmer and out onto the short straight to Agostini, and it's still Nick Hull leading the Boxsters from Gary Lawrence, and third in the Boxsters is Anthony Hutchins.
Yes, it's not breaking up in perhaps quite the same way, dare I say, as it would if Rick Styron was in that car at the front. It's a much, much closer race. And at the moment, you'd fairly say that all or any of that 4 is in with a genuine shout of the class and the overall win. 924s, well, Hugh Peart has yet to make it to the front of the 924s, having led almost every 94 lap of the weekend so far. He's in second of that class.
And Andrew Porter has made his way through into third in the Boxsters, ahead of Anthony Hutchins.
There they are down, heading towards the bomb hole, and back into the light Encore, and Gary Lawrence essaying a little look at the leader. Can't see a safe way through, so he backs off into line astern. But their pace seems pretty similar. They are genuinely, they all look as though they could be sensible as they run up underneath the pit wall once again. Nick Hull, that's a good lead, doesn't gain anything, but he certainly doesn't lose anything to Gary Lawrence either. Across the line up towards Riches.
And a challenge for second. It's disappearing behind the Armco there. I wonder whether that came off. We'll see. Yes, it did. Gary Lawrence is down to third and up into second briefly, because Gary Lawrence goes back through on the inside at Palmer, the left-hander. But briefly, it was the Andrew Porter car that got through into second place. So they're running down to Agostini now, and Gary Lawrence has increased his efforts, if that were possible, to get past Nick Hull in the blue car with the Union Jack on the boot. And they go up towards Hamilton. And then it's Andrew Porter and Anthony Hutchins just behind. Meantime, in our 924s, we've got the familiar shape and colour of the blue Hugh Peart car actually in the lead. It's got past Chris Valentine as they turn into Agostini. So the blue car that has taken 2 wins this weekend is back in the lead of the 924 class.
Well, the battle heating up for third and fourth in the boxes that time. Gary Lawrence trying desperately, pushing hard to get in touch with Hull in the lead. And there they come through. But behind him, there's been a little bit more effort from Tony Hutchins and Andy Porter. And that's all got rather close again as they come out onto Coram. So all the stretching gaps have come back. There's pretty well not a lot between them at the moment as they run down towards Murray's. And in third place, having a bit of a nibble there, was Mr. Porter, but oh, Mr. Porter, that's not going to work. So up centre straight they run, and this time he's going to have a look round the outside, but really there just isn't enough difference in power. And you can line them up, but you can't really pick them off if you haven't got more oomph at the right time, the right place. So the order remains the same. So now up towards Wilson. What kind of a thing are they doing? 2:17.6 for Andy Porter in third place. So all that huffing and puffing wasn't to no avail. He was actually putting down the fastest lap of the race. 924's ahoy.
Boxsters making their way to Agostini, and Gary Lawrence going the long way round, and maybe we'll try and cut back in the middle of the corner, but that leaves the door open for the Andrew Porter number 33 car, but he can't find a way through, and actually in the end Gary Lawrence loses out a bit trying to go around the outside of Nick Hull at Agostini. So the order remains as they go through Hamilton. Nick Hull, Gary Lawrence, then it's Andrew Porter and Anthony Hutchins, and you could throw the proverbial pocket handkerchief over these four, couldn't you?
Yeah, they'll be having an absolute whale of a time. The one thing you can say, well, depending what happens to the rest of the race, one thing you can say that they're likely to be saying to you at the end of that was a race. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and really, I suppose it's this sort of race is the essence of what going club racing is all about. You get there with a bunch of people who have reasonably similar budgets and certainly a reasonably similar attitude towards enjoying your racing, and they go out there and they have a really good fun time. 924's ahoy. They've gone through. They're being stretched really once Hugh Peart hit the front, but certainly the two at the tail of the field still having a lovely little battle between them as our Boxsters come back towards Murray's. Gary Lawrence has nicked through into the lead, and Hull came back at him. There wasn't a gap big enough though. Here they come up the straight again, and it's just Lawrence. Hull's got tucked in under the pit wall behind him, and there's not going to be room for all at the inn as Andy Porter he tries to get him as well, but at the moment Lawrence, Hull, Hutchins and Porter, the 1, 2, 3, 4.
Round Wilson, the right-handed hairpin, run down to the left-hander at Palmer, and it looks to be the black car of Gary Lawrence that still leads, from the blue of Nick Hull, from Andrew Porter, and finally Anthony Hutchins in this group as they go down to Agostini. And Gary Lawrence has opened up the slightest of margins over Nick Hull as they turn through the left-hander. And in fact Nick Hull lost out there to Andrew Porter at slightly out of our sight. It's rather frustrating, we can't see Agostini. There's a couple of motorhomes and some big lorries in the way, and that's out of our sight. And in fact Nick Hull loses out to Anthony Hutchins at Oggies, but then he sweeps round the outside and takes the place back again. So Anthony Hutchins trying very hard indeed to get up to third in the Boxsters, but as they go out onto the Bentley Straight, it looks to be Gary Lawrence followed by Andrew Porter, Nick Hull and Anthony Hutchins.
A certain amount of steam may be issuing forth from under the helmet of Nick Hull. To lose one place, to lose two, oh no. And he's been leading this for a considerable distance. Well, Gary Lawrence, we know he's been up in the lead earlier on the race, made his mistake, and got snaffled back, and now he's worked his way back to the lead. But still, you know, all things could change. About 8.5 minutes of the race left to run. The leader's peeling around off Coram down into Murray's. Substantially different order from that which that round. But out of Murray's they come, and up the straight, and just pulling out of the slipstream. I'm sure not quite enough power there. Andy Porter in second. Now he's going to have a little think about going up the inside at Ritchie's, but goodness me, he's going to be late on the brakes if that works. He thinks better of it, and line astern again.
Once again up to Wilson, and Gary Lawrence leads through the right-handed hairpin. Second place Andrew Porter. Nick Hull tries the wider line coming up toward Palmer. Will he go dive up the inside? I don't think there's room there. We'll see when they come out from behind the banking. And no. Yes. Well, no, it's Porter, then Hull. But I thought Hull was about to be passed by Hutchins. Then.
Yeah.
It was so close. But they turn into Agos, and it's still Gary Lawrence leading Andrew Porter, Nick Hull, and Anthony Hutchins. Still, we're a lap further on, and still they're absolutely tied together. We've got 7.25 minutes left in this race.
Hugh Peart still leading very comfortably, the 9.24s from Valentine, and then it's side by side. Jones just getting ahead of Pritchard as they cross the line by not a lot. What's the official verdict? 11 thousandths of a second. Well, Cody Pate as they cross the line. So even down the back end of the field, it's really, really good close racing. But up the front, you know, these four guys are absolutely in for overall honours, not just the class win, and they are down at Nelson pushing along. Pretty similar lap times, 2:17s. Well, let's see, what do we have? 2:17 1, 2:17 0, 2:17 7, 2:17 7. Fastest lap to Porter in second place. So down into Murray's once again. Into an outfield. Complex. And to the line, Gary Lawrence has that one nailed. Of course, I was reminding myself earlier that, you know, before Murray's was Murray's, it was Russell, and of course it was only a few weeks ago that we lost Jim Russell, who was all things to Snetterton, and indeed most things to racing as well. Had his name on the racing driving school here at Snet for many a long year. And in his day, particularly in the 50s and indeed the early 60s, he was a driver of note and won an awful lot of races against proper top competition. He could race with anybody, Jim Russell, and he always was a very quietly spoken, very pleasant man indeed. So although we don't have a corner here at Snet named after Jim Russell anymore, we will be thinking of him every time we're talking about cars going around Murray's.
And change of lead in the Boxsters, because for whatever reason Gary Lawrence has dropped back to third, which has put Andrew Porter into the lead. Nick Hull second, Gary Lawrence third, and Anthony Hutchins, the bridesmaid at the moment, in fourth place as they turn through the right-hander at Williams onto the Bentley straight.
He's the only one who hasn't led, hasn't he, Tony Hutchins? We really need him to do something a little spectacular over the next couple of laps.
So down towards the bridge at the end of the Bentley straight. We'll see what order they come out in. They're all very close together, and try and pick out some colours as they come onto our cameras. And it looks as though it's still Andrew Porter leading. Yes, it is. The blue car of Nick Hull in second, Gary Lawrence third, and Anthony Hutchins fourth. And in the 924s, we've already said Hugh Peart has asserted himself in the lead, but that battle Jones and Pritchard, which has been going on since the very first Porsche race we saw yesterday, and every time on track they've been within a door handle of each other.
Well, here come the leaders out Murray's, and Porter it is. Porter from Hull And chasing hard there is Gary Lawrence, and at the back, Tony Hutchins. Oh, okay, we'll see what comes out the other end. Rich's yellow flags waving mightily there. Somebody had a beginning of a monster moment just as they disappeared, needless to say, from our sight behind the hill. And one of them, it definitely went doolally.
It's Andrew Porter.
Oh dear. Well,
he's had a spin at Rich's, so that's down to 3 now for the lead.
The car obviously has recovered because yellow flags have been withdrawn, which rather suggests that the car is not going to cause any problems for anybody else. So tends to be the case that they've recovered and continued. And indeed, coming down into Palmer's now, I think a very shamefaced and abashed. Yes, there we go. Boxster. We'll watch him, but we won't talk about him too much for the next lap and a half, just so he can regain his equilibrium. And look at this Hull up the front. Lawrence in second, and now Hutchins it is in third. Piet leads the line 2 forwards across the line.
Leaders onto the Bentley straight. It looks like Gary Lawrence is going through for the lead. He's on the outside for the next corner on the inside of the circuit. So is it black or blue? I think it's Gary Lawrence has taken the lead coming down the Bentley straight into the braking area. So that's back into the lead. But Nick Hull comes up alongside and he's got the inside for the bomb hole. So Nick Hull, I think, will go back into the lead again. Yes, he does. So 2 changes of lead there within 2 corners. And it's back into our sight again. What colour is it now? It's black again. So Gary Lawrence has taken the lead back. So that's 3 changes of lead in 3 corners. And the car behind them, Anthony Hutchins, is rubbing his hands together.
He's going to fancy this.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got 3 cars coming onto the centre straight. You don't need more than 2 cars for a race, do you?
No, and they're both, Gary Lawrence and Nick Hull, very push-on sort of chaps. They're not exactly the after you or Claude's school of driving. And Nick Hull was having another little look up the inside into Richie's then, but once again doing it without the ultimate speed to get past. And Ashley Hutchins, I've been wanting to say that for ages, but it's not Ashley, it's Tony Hutchins. Yeah, Ashley Hutchins of Fairfield Convention, a beast of a different colour. But down the leaders come towards Palmer's. Lawrence with what's our minutes? Oh, we're inside the last minute. Oh, it's a time to do it for Gary Lawrence. Did he know it? Had he been planning it all along? Nick Hull would desperately like to get back with him, and he seems to have just a little bit of speed coming out of Agos, and well, really you'd fancy it's all about the complex. It's the complex of Murray's. Those are the 2 bits of Snet where if you're going to do it Banzai style, those would be the 2.
Well, they're going up towards Williams now onto the Bentley straight. The black car of Gary Lawrence leads the blue car of Nick Hull as they turn through the right-hander. Now it's the long drag down to the bridge and Brundle, and we can see the tops of the cars over the barriers, and it's the black ahead of the blue. So it's still Gary Lawrence, but will he get his braking at the right point as they turn into Brundle? Yes, he does. He snicks through there very nicely indeed, just clips the apex on the inside of Nelson, doesn't run too wide, keeping his car nicely in the middle of the track, make it very difficult for Nick Hull to find a way through. They go through the bomb hole, and meantime that battle that's been going on since the lights went out at the beginning of yesterday's race for the Porsches, Pritchard and Jones, amazing, side by side.
17 thousandths of a second once again, and the leaders come down into Murray's for the last time of asking, and it's as close as you'd like. Still Gary Lawrence just the advantage, but Nick Hull is going to be up for the charge up the centre straight, and he's tucked right under the wing. There's going to run out road though. Nope, that's it. Checker flag, and Gary Lawrence fist in the air. He knows he's been in a bum fight in that one. That was a lovely race from all 4 of them up the sharp end of things. Just a shame that Andy Porter was lost from the fray towards with about 2 laps to go. But Gary Lawrence regaining his old car. And that car has won 3 times this weekend. There goes, well, poor old Tony Porter, Andy Porter, beg his pardon, and another errant boot goes onto the grass at Hamilton's, and that is the 924 battle. But here come the Boxsters, and Gary Lawrence extremely pleased with that. He's done the whole lap with his hand out the window, waving like Billy at the marshals, and he will be, I'm sure, absolutely, he'll be fit to be tied. He'll be so pleased with that. All 4 of them really should be, and certainly the 3 with the podium should be really happy, because that was a highly entertaining race, and very little silly, as far as we could tell, went wrong throughout the entire race. It was good, it was clean, close, and Gary Lawrence will come out smelling of the nice stuff, and the others will be pleased with points gained. There goes Hugh Peart. He wins the 924s, as he has done, a triple winner this weekend. Now look at this. Look at the finish of this one, the 924s. There are 9 of them, 2 of them, 4 of them. They come, Adam Murray's. Oh dear, oh dear. That's the blue one. Oh, what a shame. Across the line, well, there goes Chris Valentine. He finishes in 2nd of the 924s, and John Jones finishes 5th. So it was Mr. Pritchard, wasn't it, that sadly went a bit adrift down there. Andy Pritchard down at Murray's. Oh dear. Well, yeah. So Porsches are it. The big guys are coming in, and I tell you what, they have every right to be exhausted after that, but I'm sure, as I say, that Gary Lawrence will be fit to be tied. Great race from him. Well, fastest lap for the Boxsters in the end, a 2:16.629 to Rick Hull, who finished in 2nd place, and in the 924s, 2:25.9 for Hugh Peart. He gets the fastest lap as well as the race win in the 924s. The drivers out of the cars down below us. Gary Lawrence already reliving an entire version of the race down there, and he's got to have a good old yap with the other 2 guys, Rick Hull and Tony Hitchens. And Alice down there waiting to corral the 1, 2, 3. Yes, Alice there.
Not just for winning, but also for being such a good race. So let's talk to our team winners up on the podium first and have a chat. So in third place, first time on the podium this weekend for Anthony Hutchins. Having a well-earned drink. Right in the mix there throughout that race. This is Cup and Bottle of Water in second place, but it could easily have been a win for Nick Hull. Well done, Nick. Nip and tuck. So Nick and Gary right to the flag. It's Cup handshake for Anthony Hutchins. But after a troubling weekend in his other car, he takes over his 99 car and a win for Gary Lawrence. Gary and water and also the Easter egg. So as always, plenty of people down here taking photographs of our 3 winners. So we'll just hop in and have a chat with Anthony first of all. That was a cracking race, 4 cars involved until the sim, but you were right in there.
Yeah, it worked on the line. This coming here is the first time I've actually seen it.
Right, thanks very much. And yeah, Japan, here we come, quite right. So down there we have on the grid the mass ranks of the Lishlock Civic Cup runners, and on pole position number 24, Ben Sharp. Alongside him, 25 is Daniel Hobson. Second row, 45, Alistair Camp, and 51, David Buki. The third row, 37, Bruce Winfield, and 22, Jason Ballantyne. The fourth row, 81, Lewis Rose, and 63, Phil Wright. The fifth row, 77, Dan Reason, and 48, Lee Deegan. The sixth row, 26, Morgan Bailey, 195, Paul Taylor. Seventh row, 75, David Vincent, and 211, Michael Winkworth. The eighth row, 55, Chris Kumar. What am I saying, Chris? Yes, Chris Kumar. And 28 is Chris Mullin. It's the two Chris's. Ninth row, 71, Max Lewis, and 133 is Andy Hart. The 10th row, 15, Luke Handley, and 23, Tim Evans. The 11th row, 9 is Paul McHugh, and 140, Damien Harris. The 12th row, 8 is Aaron Rose, and 60 Mike Ballantyne. And on the 13th row, 83 is Craig Carter, and alongside him is number 4, Martin DL. Now, we're going to have a beady as they come around again to see whether or not Martin DL is there. He started from the pit lane in the earlier race, and he didn't make it around to the end of the first lap. So we hope whatever the problem was with his car has been rectified, and we'll keep an eye out for him. He should be lurking at the back in car number 4. So that'll be our first task, see if we can find him. Buzz in the background as the Civics make their way around on the green flag lap. But a lot of racing here at Snetterton throughout the year. It's not just one of the all-time favourite testing tracks in Britain, but it has a fantastic programme of racing, obviously including everything touring cars and British superbikes and all sorts. On the 19th to 21st of July, the Bennett's British Superbike Championship will be here at Snet on, of course, the full 300 circuit. Thank you. Always one to watch, always a phenomenal amount of action. And at the end of June, the Caterham weekend, all the things Caterham will be here at Snetterton then. So an awful lot of good racing as always, and goes long into the year as well. Got a great long racing season at Snet. Wish him a lot more weather as like we have today. As the marshals waving yellow flags and greeting the Civic crew back, just the last chance that we'll take today to say a huge thank you to all the marshals and the breakdown guys and girls, the officials and stuff, all those people, including the guys and girls from catering and security, who are amongst the first to arrive at any race meeting, the last to leave. Our timekeeping friends over there from TSL. Yep, that's right. Check your candles and use what's that's it. There's a grandfather clock in the back. They're fully equipped. But mainly a huge thank you to the guys and girls in orange. We know they must be getting a little steamy by now, and their only friends will be each other. But another great weekend's work at keeping the racing running from the marshalling force. And our lovely and highly colourful grid of Civics comes back to us once again, Alistair.
And we were discussing Daniel Hobson, who's on the front row, and his hometown of Market Weighton. And I'm indebted to a co-commentator of mine from other circuits, Dave Goddard, who texted me earlier, obviously listening to us on live stream, to tell us that Market Weighton is near Hull. So there we are.
Well, there we are.
Not a place I'd heard
if I'd have taken the pin and the donkey, I don't think I'd have got the tail anywhere near its nose. I would simply not have done. Well, there we are.
Well, we've got a very poor start from pole position for Ben Sharp, and he's swamped by the first couple of rows, and a very good start from our close to Hull resident Daniel Hobson, number 25, who takes Riches in the lead, and in second place it looked as though they were distance, particularly late in the afternoon as we are now, and they go around Wilson. Somebody goes very wide there and loses a couple of places down into the car that went very wide. Just looking on the live stream, still can't tell, just another of our very colourful cars down into the braking area for Agostini, and it is the car of Daniel Hobson that leads into the left-hander. And then maybe Bruce Wingfield or Jason Valentine.
towards the Bentley Straight they run. Quite lovely. Basically the main straight to the semi-straight lines east-west. That's the way the sun goes, and at the moment the sun is blazing straight down on anything to the west of us, and that includes most of the new complex, and Riches and Wilson as well. So a lot of silhouettes we have out there. It's when they come back towards us that we'll actually pick up the many-coloured coats, and believe me, there are many coloured coats out there. Leading to a little bit of a break down into Murray's for the first time, then frankly continuing.
David Buki in second place, and it was indeed 37 Bruce Winfield in third place, and then Lee Deegan in fourth place, and the rest of them 3-4 abreast as they go down into Riches. Great racing from the Civic Cup as they go up now towards Wilson through the right-hander, and our two leaders, you've just said they've slightly broken away. Yes, they have, but are they being closed down now by Bruce Winfield, number 37, who himself has started to break away a little bit from 51 David Buki as they come through the left-hander at Palmer along the short straight to Agostini, and it is indeed Daniel Hobson who leads into the left-hander for the second time.
Yes, one that slightly surprised me is Dan Reason, who's stuck down there in 7th at the moment, but he's one of the quickest of the runners to judge by the evidence we've seen so far this weekend. And at the moment, the reverse of the fortunes at the front of this grid, and a bit of a mix-up before they started, and Dan seems to be slightly caught out, or rather bottled up, by the situation at the moment. This a 15-minute race for the Discot Civic Cup, our last race here this weekend, this BRSCC race weekend here at Snetterton.
Way down towards the braking area for Brundle, and the two leaders turn into the left-hander, Daniel Hobson and David Buki turn in left and then right, and then it's very close for third and fourth places between Winfield and Deegan, and we know how quick Lee Deegan is, former champion of the Civic Cup. So they're making their way now through the final part of Coreham, onto the brakes for the left-hander at Murray's they go, and it's turning in first Daniel Hobson, coming through to complete lap 2. And these Civic engines really do sound very good indeed as they fly through. And David Buki in second place, then it's almost 3 abreast across the line. Who is going to get that one? Well, it's the car from the outside, and turns into Riches. And
is it Deegan that has a piece of loose bodywork at the back of the car? It's certainly pretty much his colour scheme, but we're going to have to wait and see when he runs away from us once again.
Those three are still side by side, turning into Palmer.
And Deegan is 40.
Let's see if we can pick that up. Here they come down to Agostini now, and it's at the moment it's Bruce Winfield who's broken away from that little group, and they've been joined by Jason Ballantyne at the back of the group. So it's grown from 3 to 4 cars, led by Winfield, then Deegan.
Yeah, Deegan looks as though he might have received a little bit of a kiss on the rear bumper there. It's not nothing drastic, just a little piece of fondness, but don't think it's going to be slowing him up any.
Leaders onto the Bentley Straight once again, and the gap between the leaders last time around was 1.5 seconds, and our leader Daniel Hobson had set the fastest lap of the race, 2 minutes 13.302 for Daniel Hobson.
That is a lead. I really wasn't expecting a lead of this margin at this stage in this final race of the day, but the leading two are pedalling on, and the group behind, there's now 4 of them, are potentially holding each other up. It's really hard to get quicker once you're stuck in a group like that. They're fighting for every square inch of this Snetterton circuit. Leaders down into Murray's, and then it's anybody's. Deegan tucked in there in 4th place, I think, from here. It's 1 and 2 run up the straight, past the start-finish line, and yes, Deegan with his slightly rearranged rear trim, flapping away there in 4th place. I know it's the end of the weekend. It's just unfortunate the way my mind works, but that's the way it goes. I really hope that Deegan is a vegan, because that'll please me greatly next time we see him. But down towards Palmer's they come, and the leading two really are pushing on, Hobson and Buki. Hobson at the moment looking as though he's got this one nailed, and Buki, well, he's got himself a reasonable advantage as well, and you'd have to say you might have expected Lee Deegan, beg his pardon, to make slightly quicker work of getting past Winfield, but Winfield's driving a beautiful race in 3rd, and it's very much a watch your mirrors race. The guys ahead have gone substantially, and everything that's happening to Winfield's happening in his rearview mirror.
And Alistair Camp now coming under a challenge from Jason Ballantyne. This is at the back of that group of 4 you were just talking about: Winfield, Deegan, Camp and Ballantyne across the line. So that's 5th and 6th places as they go out onto the Bentley Straight once again. The 2 leaders, really, nobody's seeing them for dust, but great battle. Oh, and a car slowing on the Bentley Straight.
Oh dear.
But we can only see the roof of it. So, yes, car pulled off to the left onto the grass. Thank you to the BRSCC live stream I'm able to watch. But I can't tell who it is at this stage, so we'll wait till they come round. But it looked to me like one of the cars from that battle for 3rd place. And indeed there are only 4 cars by the looks of it in that group now.
Well, the 2:12.7, fastest up the race so far to the winner, Hobson, the leader, I should say, Hobson. But that is the fastest Civic lap of the weekend. And he's, my goodness me, is he pedalling on.
So the car that pulled off on the Bentley Straight, I'm afraid, was Jason Ballantyne, tumbling down the timing screen as he doesn't come through. So pulled off at the end of the Bentley Straight on the approach to Brundle, but that was a blow-up, wasn't it, at Rich's?
Somebody has emptied the pram out there at Rich's. Lots of smoke.
And also a lot of oil on the circuit. Even from this distance, I can see the oil sheen shining there, and very, very quickly the marshals get the orange and yellow striped flag, which is a slippery surface flag. And
oh dear, that has let go in big style. We've they've only got 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes to run, and if that's serious oil, I could see them calling a day on that. But
yes, it's certainly it's a decision that they'll be making as we speak as to whether this race can continue with the oil.
Sorry, there's another, actually that's kicking up dirt. There was another car going up towards from Oggie's. There's a slow one behind it, which could well be the culprit. But, oh dear, that's a huge shame.
Oh, such a great race going on, but last time across the line it was Daniel Hobson leading from David Buki, and Hobson was really showing everybody a clean pair of heels, having just set the fastest lap. And they're coming back round. There are no flags showing out on track, and we have no messages on our screen, so we'll wait to see as they come down to the timing line. But the yellow and orange flag still shown at Rich's, so the drivers will see that as a severe warning to take it easy. And they go through and complete another lap, and it's quite possible that Daniel Hobson will be able to see that shiny surface on the track, so he's keeping over to the right-hand side. And but unfortunately, our second place car didn't see it and slithers off into the gravel, makes his way round Riches, just about gets back on. That's David Buki, I'm afraid, was caught out by that oil. We've got another spinner in Riches into the gravel, facing now the wrong way into the face of the oncoming traffic, and unfortunately this oil is really causing... I think that car that spun actually has got going again. I can see a car going slowly towards Wilson.
Yep, there's one parked and one has continued, so all the same, the clock ticketh down and there's just 2 minutes to run, and in all that schmozzle, you have to say the one person who's made the big gain is Deegan. Lee Deegan is up there into third. He may even be second at the end of this one.
I think he will be, because David Buki went off into the gravel, and I think although he kept going, I don't think he kind of stayed ahead of Lee Deegan.
Right, we'll have to keep an eye on the screens as they come down under the bridge and get some idea. It's been an excellent race so far for Hobson, obviously, but he's not just built that lead, but he's held it to everyone. It's looked like a really splendid race for Daniel.
And he's coming through Coram in the lead. We've got 1 minute 45 seconds on the clock, so this will be the last lap that they're starting as they come round to the timing line, and the last lap board goes out as I say that. So on to their last lap. Still that great battle going on for fourth place. Daniel Hobson comes through in the lead. Second place now is 48 Lee Deegan. Third place is Alistair Camp. Fourth is David Buki, so he did keep going as we thought, but lost a couple of places onto the slippy part of the circuit there, and another car spins big. How many times round was that? I think 3 times around for
Triple Salco,
yes, for one of our top 10 cars. So that's really unfortunate, and once again he's got himself out and got going again. But this trail of oil is really catching these drivers out on the run through Riches.
Yes, he'll be a little dizzier, but not necessarily any wiser. But this should be the last lap, with the clock ticking now to half a minute. And it's a shame, obviously, about the oil up there, because it was a cracker of a race before that. But, you just, at this moment, sort of feel a bit for Dan Hobson. He's done the business as far as this race is concerned, and if he were caught at this stage by Lee Deegan, you'd feel, or he would feel, that he's been robbed. And you'd have to say it was a function of the schmozzle after that oil went down. We're waiting to see him come down into the braking area. Here he comes under that bridge, and he's got a sufficient gap. You've got to be able to hold that in the lead. There's not a lot can be done about that, and out he runs, the bomb hole, for the last time.
So coming into our sight towards Coram, the leader Daniel Hobson, who led right from the red lights going out, because the fellow front row starter Ben Sharp didn't make a very good start at all and was swamped by the second row. So it was Daniel Hobson who took the lead from the front and has held it right throughout the race, coming down now to take the checkered flag, which is ready for him, and a win for Daniel Hobson, and second place for number 48, which is our winner from the first race for the Civics, Lee Deegan.
And third place is Alistair Camp, and a good effort from him indeed, and his best result of the weekend, a 2:12 right at the last there. Hobson determined not to lose it all. A 2:12.729, fastest lap of the race, and once again a new fastest Civic lap of this weekend's racing. So slight scares there with the oil going down, but the race successfully brought to a completion by the BRSCC and the good offices of the marshals, including but not particular to those out there at Riches who had Civics being chucked at them in all directions right at the last. But that was a really wonderful, I think, an enjoyable, varied weekend's racing there. Tin Tops, Open Top Sports, and of course open-wheeled Formula Fords. And good to see a lot of the genuine club championships getting a decent amount of racing over a weekend as well. A number of them getting out to play 3 times. Lovely stuff. The weather, as we know, has been more than kind, and we'll take that any day of the week. So the Civics making their way down even now through Agostini's out towards the Bentley Straight, and they'll be coming home. Not sure where this package goes next. Do you know, Alistair? As a package, do they I presume they try and keep a lot of these championships together. Open Park, my goodness me, they will be they'll be having fun up there. There's one of them parked up, I noticed, just beyond the exit of the pit lane, but that's not going to worry anybody at this stage in proceedings. So cars are coming in. Alistair's making his way down to greet the happy winners. And I shall say on my behalf, Robin Murphy, I've been really pleased to be with you this weekend here at glorious Snetterton. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Do hope you've enjoyed your racing and your bank holiday weather, and I look forward to being with you at some stage in the future. I will certainly be up here at the end of June, and I've really enjoyed my weekend here with Alistair, and he will be doing his sign-off, I'm sure, once he's had a chance to talk to the 1-2-3 in the Disc Lock Civic Cup. He's down there about to waylay them right now. From me, it's good afternoon, and please drive safely on your way home. And I shall hand you down to Alistair and the Civil Civics.